that mine?
Who's that?
We ran into her at VA. That is so crazy. Out waiting for the shuttle.
Yeah. I thought she was very popular. I was like, God,
Oh, I know.
So
You are popular. Today I was showing someone at school our picture of all of us at Havis, and she's like, I know her. And I was like, what? And she's like, it's something done on my name. And she looks familiar to me. So it's like, patience or whatever. Hey everybody, thanks for coming. I'm Kate, and we are going to just kind of roll right in. I'm just noticing the snow is starting to really come down out there, so we're going to keep things nice and tidy tonight. We kind of have a light night, which I knew going into tonight with the weather, and then also, who doesn't know like 5 people with the flu right now? I mean, it's just crazy. So there's definitely jewelers who are out sick. So Selah is going to record a training tonight because we have our guest speaker. So we get to hear, Jeremy calls this the most anticipated training of the year. And so I was like, pretty much, I think people do in their hearts kind of want to pay money to see Jeremy train at Premier Training. So I agree. I think it is the most anticipated training of the year. Too bad the topic has to be so boring. But that's okay. So what I want to do is just start us off with a giveaway. We're going to have Jeremy come on up and talk to us about taxes. So look at what I have, you guys. So raise your hand. You don't even have to start screaming. Okay, raise your hand if you were in Texas this weekend with us. Okay, so we got to tour the home office and the warehouse, manufacturing plant, shipping, everything to see how Premier works behind the scenes from A to Z. And we got a little special inside scoop that the incentive store had just released these super cute vinyl bags. And so they're white clean, and they all have really cute things on them, like this one. Here, can I get a pair of skinny jeans? This one. The purse game? Yeah, there you go. Leave a little sparkle wherever you go. This one says, jewelry always fits.
Thank you.
This one, beauty comes from within this bag. Running on caffeine and dry shampoo. Every day's a fresh start. And then there's 2 little styles of the pencil bags. This one says Dare to Dream. And the other one, I just got accidentally left at home. Oh, this is so weird. I know. So I was like, well, I guess I'll keep it. It says good things come to those who hustle. So anyway, they let us do a little pre-shopping. These are available on the incentive site starting now, though, and they're $6.99. So these are super cute little giveaways for your hostess or your parties or whatever. So this is what we're going to be giving away tonight. And I'm going to give one away right now, actually. And then we'll hear from Jeremy. Oh, do I have everybody's tickets?
No.
Andrea Hardy.
Hey, no. Just show up.
Show up. Show up. That's funny.
That's how you win. Uh-huh.
I have 10 out of the 14 for you.
Oh, Kelly's not here.
Kelly's not here.
I don't know why Kelly didn't come to town.
I mean, seriously.
When they called her at Haven, I was like,
Yeah.
In the bucket.
we used that $50 that I wanted to take the kids out to lunch after church. I was like,
There you go.
we're having lunch on this morning.
Nice.
Good for you.
Okay, the winner of the first cute little vinyl bag is Leah! You get to pick. You can have a minute. You can have a minute. Hey, you're up. Yeah? Yeah? What do you want me to do? Some fancy introduction? Let me introduce you. I'm so not. Yeah. Someone else in there does. I don't know. You guys know. It's Jeremy.
I've got a couple. I'm not gonna. Well, I've got a few props, I guess.
Props.
Like props or like?
Yeah. No, not a PowerPoint. Just a couple introductory. So.
Yeah.
There it goes.
All right. So we'll just give it a minute. Well, that's hopefully turn it on here. You were talking about having fun in taxes. So I was in the tax business for 15 years, and we would say we make taxes fun, and it was a complete lie. So you can't have fun. So I'm just kidding. We're going to try to have fun. So starting out with this is a little comment. Let me ask you, who was here last year? Okay. Do you remember any of it?
Of course.
Notes? Oh, that's impressive.
I'm lying.
You actually decided to write something down
I
that
just wanted to make you nervous.
Okay. I'm glad there was something worth writing down. That's a good sign. So anyway, so the IRS, you can tell it says theirs. So this is the new IRS slogan. We have what it takes to take what you have. So just keep that in mind. And you heard about the tax law changes. They simplified things. This for 2018. I asked, so I sent, perhaps, you'll know for sure on this one. But I did, I was in the tax industry for a long time, so I sent a memo to the IRS and asked if they would make things simpler for premier jewelers, and they responded, and they gave us this new 1040 document that you can use. So I think it's from 1989. And they crossed it out to 2017, and you just write down how much you made, and then you send it in. So easy enough, right? So turn that off. I don't need that anymore. I don't have any more props to show you. So. Okay. So I am going to go through just some of the basics, and maybe there'll be some time for a few clarifying questions along the way, but if you have specific detailed questions, probably be better to just connect with me afterwards, or if I get through it fast enough, which I highly doubt, but if I do, and Kate says we have room for 2 or 3 or 10 questions, we could do that, but most likely we'll need to do, if you have individual questions, I'm happy to talk with you afterwards and help that way. If there's something I say that doesn't make sense, please feel free to ask questions or clarify. So most of you are going to file, probably all of you are going to file on a Schedule C. So does anyone know, is anyone familiar with Schedule C? So that's the self-employment schedule that gets attached to your 1040, and it's in its simplest form. It's how much did you make, your income, and what were your expenses, and the net amount will display at the bottom, and you put that on a line on your 1040. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's on there. So that's just the basics of it. Income minus expenses, and then that's what you're going to be taxed on. Now, who uses Hood and House? Okay. There's a couple things specific to Hood and House. I may mention a few things along the way, but because it's looks like it's a little less than half, I don't want to spend too much time on that. But just so you know, if you use Hood and House, there is a report once you get all your income from your jewelry shows in there, or events, whatever it is, and all your. You can enter in all your expenses, and it'll print a nice thing they call a profit and loss, like an operating income and expense report, and that is designed to line up exactly with the lines on the Schedule C for your tax return, and so you can just take the numbers and put it on there. You don't have to use Hidden House, but if you do, know that there's that report, and it makes things much easier when you go to complete your Schedule C. So now, just so you know, it's very likely that on your Schedule C, it's going to show a loss on there, and that's okay. What you make as a business owner and what is taxable income to the IRS are two separate things. So if that number is smaller than you think, or is a negative number, that's not a reflection of how you performed in your business. It can be, but it isn't necessarily. What you're taxed on and what you actually earn in a business are two separate things. So just make sure you keep that in mind. Don't confuse the two. So let's see. Okay, so like I said, you're just trying to determine two basic things: income and expenses. So income, what are examples of income that you make in Premier?
Selling the jewelry.
Okay, so selling the jewelry, right? That's the big one, right? What else? And how do you do that?
It shows.
It shows
Cash and carry.
Cash and carry.
Online.
Right? Okay. Now, when it's cash and carry, you don't enter that into Hood and House, right? So if you're using Hood and House, is that true? You don't enter it in Hood and House if you're just selling something off the table, right?
Right, usually.
Or it's a sample show or something like that.
You can.
Other
can.
than that.
Okay, as other. So that's the thing to remember. If you're using Hood and House and you put all your shows or your events in there, and you're not including your sample sales or whatever you call it, you're going to need to add that to your gross income number. Otherwise, it won't be accounted for, and you'll be underreporting your income. If you do enter it into Hood and House, it'll be there. What else? There's another type of income. So your commissions. That doesn't go in Hood and House. Maybe there's a place to put it. I have never put it in there. I just add it in separately. But that's another example of income. And you're going to get a 1099 miscellaneous for that. So if you got, if you had any commissions checks because you had someone in your downline, then you're going to get a 1099 miscellaneous from Premier. And that will tell you how much you earned from your downline commissions. Also on there, if you got free jewelry certificates or won a trip or anything of that nature, that's also going to be on the 1099 miscellaneous, and that is also going to be taxable. You'll need to report that on your Schedule C. So keep that in mind. So I think those are all the basic income categories that you're going to want to account for on your tax return. So next is, and that would also include training shows. I know it's different now than it was, but in 2017, you had your training show income. That will also be on the 1099 miscellaneous. That will not be in Hood and House. So another category you need to keep track of. So expenses. Here's a rule of thumb. Anything you spend to make money, my notes looks like they got cut and pasted. So let's see. Forget that. Well, if you're spending money, anything you're spending on the business, that should be deductible, an expense. So I'm going to go through some different categories that are fairly common. So the first one is, it might say on the Schedule C, I think it says COGS, or cost of goods sold. That's your jewelry that you purchase that you sell at the shows. Not to show on your table necessarily, but you buy it. It's, what do you guys call that? Your commission, or your CV, or your, is that what it is, your CV? Okay, so that's going to be your COGS. It's the cost that you paid for the jewelry. That's probably going to be by far your biggest expense. You don't want to miss that.
So that is jewelry put on your table or no?
Yeah,
No,
I would.
It's not.
It's not, because that'll show up as,
Samples.
that shows up as samples on a different place. The cost of goods sold is if you take the amount of money that you took in at a jewelry party minus taxes, that goes on, that's your gross income. Then when you send money to Premier for the party, you're sending the money because you're paying for the jewelry. And so that part then comes off of your income. Does that make sense? And it's just that. That's cost of goods sold, and that's the only thing that goes in that category.
But it should show up on your, I think there's a report in your dashboard. It's the one that's got the little megaphone on it. I don't know what that report. Anyway, it should be I think it says CV value or something like that. It should be that. Okay, that's definitely one you don't want to miss, and it would be hard to miss that one. But next is mileage. So for 2017, you get 53.5 cents per mile. You need a mileage log that shows the date, the purpose, the start location, and the destination. If you can recreate a mileage log. So if you did do one along the way, you can recreate it. So here's some examples: to and from jewelry shows that you should, and the mileage will be significant because you do a fair amount of driving. So anything to and from a jewelry show, anything to and from monthly training. So tonight, obviously it's a different year, but anything you went to last year, that would be eligible for the mileage deduction.
Date and destination.
And purpose. And then obviously the total miles. You could probably just Google 2017 mileage log and it'll show you. I think if you have the date and the location and the total miles, you'd probably be safe. And there's one in Hood House, yeah. Okay, so if you ever deliver jewelry, does anyone deliver jewelry to their hostesses? Or customers, that is deductible. Going to and from the post office, if you're ever sending an RE back, going to or from the airport for Raleigh or Haven or any of those types of things. So all of those, sometimes we'll miss things when we go through our bank statements to see like, oh yeah, we went to the post office on this day, and we went to, and you can go through your jewelry shows and see what dates and where they were at. So if all of your documentation should be there if you didn't do it as you went. It's a little bit of a hassle, but well worth it at 53.5 cents a mile to get that deduction.
What about going to the airport if you're going to Chicago? I'm sorry, you said to stop.
No, yeah, well,
If you're going there to do a
if
jewelry
you're
party.
going there, it
Yeah.
depends on why you're going.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's why you do a jewelry party
Every time you
every
travel.
time you go on.
That's why I'm doing it.
Exactly. To go in
Because you
anyway, you
told
might as
me.
well do a jewelry party. That's exactly right.
So training expenses. So some of you ladies just went to Haven. I would consider that training. Some of that training, some of it travel. Obviously travel as well. We just talked about that. Air, hotel, meals, parking, tolls, mileage, all of that related to travel is deductible. Home show supplies, food, cleaning costs. If you were having a home show at your house and you paid someone to clean your house for you before or after, probably who does that?
Dang, that's good.
No one? We don't have as many shows at our own houses, right? But invitations.
That's a great reason
Yeah,
to have
it's
a
a great-
personal show, ladies.
Before and after.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Office supplies, paper, cardstock, printer ink, maybe the printer itself if you use it for Premiere. iPad, TVs. Just joking about the TVs.
Cell phone?
So yes, I'll get to that.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. No, that's a good one. Okay. If anyone uses a credit card for their business and you pay interest on that, the interest is deductible. Legal and professional fees. So some examples of that. are bank fees, like if your bank charges you $5 a month or for transactions or anything like that. Credit card processing fees, so anytime you accept a payment by credit card, they take that 1 or 2 or 3%, whatever it is. That is deductible, and that can add up.
Yeah.
Easily be at least a few $100.
Yeah.
Propay has a nice report that you can export.
Okay, perfect.
So does
Yep.
Square.
Yeah, you should, for those, you should be able to get a summary statement for that. So you know exactly what it is. You shouldn't have to do a lot of math for that. Let's see, what else are those types of fees?
Tax prep fees.
Tax prep fees, hood and house. If you pay for hood and house, that is deductible.
I have a question. Our party fees that we submit to
Yes.
Premier, I was not clear on that
Yes.
last year. So like the $10.
Yeah.
That's
And you could put that under professional fees.
So shares, you're saying? Like
Yeah.
the $14 share right now for the
Yes.
Yeah.
40% listed.
The jeweler shares, what it's called.
Yes, that's good. I should have that in front.
This is back to mileage, but there's, well, not this, but there's great mileage apps, like that you can turn
Yes.
on just for, you know, like make a category for Premiere. And then you just turn it on when you're going to a party, you're going to,
Yeah.
track that for you.
And it tracks it, like Kate uses Mile IQ, which she did last year, or the year before.
Kate was supposed to be using.
How much can we reduce from our cell phone?
Okay, I'm gonna get to that.
Okay.
And that's an important one. All right, let's keep moving along. Business use of home. So if you use part of your house and you set up an office to work in, what I would recommend is everyone, you know, a lot of people are self-employed, have small businesses, they work from home. And so IRS made it easy for us, and there's a simplified method where you can take up to $5 per square foot. You can take $5 per square foot of your office up to 300 square feet. Now, if your office is only 100 square feet, then take 5 times 100 square feet, and you can take that as a deduction for business use of your home. But you can do up to 1,500, and you don't have to provide documentation or anything. It's just a standard. Anyone who legitimately operates a business out of their home can take that.
So does that also include if that space is used for multiple other things, or how does that?
It probably should be primarily for that, but I think if you're legitimately using it, I think you're probably fine to take it. What you can't do, like Kate and I have multiple businesses, so I can't take the same office space and deduct it on one Schedule C for one business, and then again for another business, and again for another. I choose which one is probably most applicable for, and I'm going to apply it there.
Okay, I guess that was.
But if you go in and you pay bills and has nothing to do with the business, it's going to be fine. I mean, now remember, you want everything to be legit and real. And none of you are going to be writing off tens of thousands of dollars on your tax return. If you make a mistake and like, oh, it was 200 square feet, but I wrote 300 square feet and I accidentally took an extra $500 deduction. If you ever got audited by the IRS, which is highly unlikely, they would say, we disagree, your office is only 200 square feet, you took 300 square feet, now you owe us $500. You're not like going to go to jail. And it wouldn't even be $500, that would just be your income went up by $500, so you owe us the tax on that. So it would be, which is why they wouldn't even waste time. But
Can you repeat that again? $5 per square feet up to?
up to 300 square feet.
But if you.
But most home offices aren't 300 square
Right.
feet. Most
Yeah.
are probably 100, 150, just like a bedroom size.
Mhm.
So that you would just calculate, hey, our home office is 150 square feet, so I'm gonna take 5 times 150, and then that'll be the deduction for my home office.
Okay.
But probably most of you could utilize that if you have a dedicated area in your house. It might only be 50 feet, but whatever it is.
Just, like, could I include, like, where my, office space is and area where I, film videos and that kind of thing? Like, can you have, multiple spaces in that?
Probably, yeah, I would say so. All right, moving along. The one you were asking about, several of you. Oh, not yet. Internet. Internet. So you can take a realistic prorated portion of your internet. You kind of have to have internet to do this business, right? It's not really optional. So it's okay. Everyone probably uses the internet in their home for other purposes besides Premiere. So I probably wouldn't recommend taking 100% of it, but probably take 25, 30, 50%, something like that, something reasonable. Probably part of it depends on how, everyone's a different involvements in Premiere, right? Doing a show every 3 months is going to look different than someone who does 10 shows a month in terms of those types of that type of use for
If you do 10 shows a month, I'll buy you internet, just so you know.
All right, but you can't deduct your TV. So television, cable, satellite, all that, not necessary to run a Premiere business at all. So a lot of times those bills come together, right? You'd have to take the portion of your internet and figure it, prorate it from there. All right, cell phone, similar to your, you probably, again, if you're fairly involved in Premiere, you could probably take all of your cell phone. Kate's, totally legit. She could not get by without her cell phone. I'm sure that's true for many of you in terms of just operating Premiere on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, second-to-second.
Oh,
basis.
stop it.
So.
Should I step faster again?
So she's going to take her full cell phone bill for her line and deduct 100% of it in Premiere. So that's totally. You got a family plan, and it's you and your husband and 3 kids. You can't take all 5 lines. You could take the one, and perhaps maybe just a portion of it, depending on how much. Does that answer the cell phone?
Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Don't forget other things, your enrollment fee with Premiere. That's a deduction, and renewal, RE costs associated with that. Postage, perhaps some of your computer and office equipment, portion of it. You mentioned printer earlier. Now, there's also a category on the Schedule C on the second page, it's like miscellaneous expenses. Every year, we always have a handful of transactions where I'm like, I don't know where this goes exactly, but maybe it's a little more obscure, but it was definitely strictly and only for Premiere. So I know it's a legit expense. I just don't know what category to put it in, so I'll put it in miscellaneous. And that's okay. At the end of the day, if you're like, hey, I spent this money to run my business, to make money in this business, then it's an expense. Put it in miscellaneous if you, at the end of the day, you don't know where to put it. It doesn't change the outcome as long as it's a legitimate expense. Okay, what's not deductible? Haircuts.
Don't say nails.
Nails. Now, if it's a group event, a team building activity,
Team building.
Training.
Once a month.
that's a little different.
Networking.
To the
But-
salon.
Yes.
If you're going by yourself just to get your normal nail maintenance or whatever it's called,
What about if you meet at like a Starbucks for a hostess training?
yes.
Yes.
So great. So meals and entertainment turns out can be a gigantic expense.
Stop pointing fingers already. Jeez.
Starbucks.
I mean, they want a coffee.
Starbucks. It's mostly Starbucks, but it's like, I mean, she's meeting people at Starbucks like 3 times a day. It's
What if I'm just getting a Starbucks on the way to a party?
no.
There you
that-
go.
if
Bring
you-
one to
if
your
you bring it
hostess.
to your hostess, then that is. But now
It is? Wait, mine too?
I would do it.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll do it every time.
Certainly, if you hostess coaching beforehand, or you're sharing the business, or you're meeting with another jewelry lady just to talk about the business, that is definitely deductible. Now, here's something important to know about meals and entertainment. It's only a 50% deduction. So if you spend you just get one drink and it costs $20 at Starbucks. You're only getting a $10 deduction on your income. So,
What if you're at the beauty shop getting your hair cut and all you do is talk business?
Yeah.
That really did
Yeah,
happen.
that does
So-
happen, babe. They go there to network with their hairstyles. That's told to.
yeah,
You do, but
Well-
it's still a lot of business expense.
some people would probably claim it, and there's, as much as we'd like to say, taxes are black and white, there is definitely this gray area. And so if you feel like, hey, the only purpose or primary purpose was to network and I've got results to show for it because I got shows out of it, you could maybe
Not
do it.
yet.
I'm not going to say, I'm not saying yes, absolutely do it, but you could have a case. And it's one of those things, if the IRS ever questions it and they disagree, then you say, fine, change it, and I'll pay the difference. But some people are very conservative, others are a little less conservative, so kind of decide
Okay.
what the real purpose was, and if you'd be doing that anyway, and
It's a nice way to say, don't lie.
so. But, what's amazing is our tax system is based on just the, I don't know, what's the honesty, you
The honor
report
code.
it, the honor code, exactly, that's the phrase I was thinking. So the honor system. So clothes, not deductible.
What about the white jean jacket?
White jean jacket.
Well, you could try.
Don't worry about it.
We'll talk about that later.
Or
I wouldn't buy a white jean jacket otherwise.
exactly.
Well, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I don't think it's required. Is the jean jacket required?
Yeah.
I'm gonna require it starting now.
What?
It's just for national route. All the jewelers, all the rock stars wear white jean jackets tonight. You'll be fine. You can make it cute. We're professionals and we can look cute. You'll be fine.
Okay. Couple other, so those are the main expenses. So
That's a uniform then, if it's required.
what to keep? Oh yeah, babysitting. That's not deductible on the Schedule C. So, but that is, you could potentially deduct babysitting expenses on another part of your tax return, but not on the Schedule C. Okay, so what to keep? Keep your mileage log, keep receipts, bank statements, credit card statements. Receipts probably less if you're using like a debit card for your dedicated Premier account, which you should do. Then you'll have your statements that show all your transactions, but in theory you should keep all your receipts too. You get a 1099 potentially from Premier Corporate if you had downline commissions or jewelry certificates like we talked about earlier, training shows. And then anything you use, spreadsheets to help create, enter information into Head and House or to create the Schedule C, I would just keep that as kind of source documentation in your tax file. Now I mentioned that if you don't already have a dedicated Premier account, it doesn't necessarily need to be a business account. It's great if it is, but just have a separate account where you can have a debit card and run your all your transactions through there. If you commingle it with a personal account, it's just real messy. It's okay if you've done that. You can go through and pick out the right transactions, but it's just a lot easier if you just pull up your statements and know everything in there with money in or money out only for Premier, and then you can classify it accordingly. So. All right. I think we talked about, so just kind of one or two last items here. When you're done, you think you got your Schedule C done and you put all your, I think you got all your expenses and your income in there, just look at it. And does this make sense? It may not reflect the money that you've kept in your pocket because things like mileage, things like internet, things like cell phone, that's a benefit of our tax system. Yeah, you use those things, but you probably would have had them anyway. It's not going to reflect what you made in your business, but keep that in mind when you're looking at it. But just say, hey, does it make sense that I spent this much money on these different items? And if something looks out of whack, then just dig into it a little bit and make sure that you didn't have a typo and add an extra zero or something like that. And then, part of that too, reviewing it, is it just needs to be reasonable. So make sure it looks reasonable. You're probably not going to get audited. Even if you did, if you're making legitimate deductions for things you actually used on your business, you're going to be fine. So, and that's why you want to keep those statements and anything you put together to determine your tax situation, just keep it in case you ever are. But the odds are extraordinarily small. And most likely, if you were, they're going to send you a letter and say, we disagree with this part of your tax return. We've changed it to this. If you disagree, provide proof and send it back to us, which I've had to do that a bunch, 2-3 times. And they say, okay, you provided the proof that we wanted. Here you go. And then lastly, each tax return is unique. So don't call up another jeweler and say, hey, my tax return shows I made, $8,000. What does yours say? They're all gonna be different. So don't use that as a assessment as to whether you did it right or not.
Okay. So clarification, if we're using a business credit card, debit card, whatever, and we have all the statements, do we have to keep the receipts?
Honestly, I don't know, but I personally am comfortable with the statements and not the receipt. But here's the thing. Let's say you're at Starbucks and you're meeting a hostess, and so you buy coffees for you and for her. On meals and entertainment, you're supposed to document the purpose of that expense and who you were with. So in that case, it would be good to keep the receipt so you can say I was at Starbucks with so-and-so to do a hostess coaching or whatever. And so you could do that on the bank statement. And I personally think that would be okay. But I think anymore, that's really the only reason to keep a receipt. That's not official. That's just my personal approach to it.
I'm actually a business traveler outside of Premier, and we have to, for all the businesses that I've ever done, we have to keep the receipts in addition to our credit card statements. And like he said, write the names of if you're with 3 jewelers or with 3 people. It's like documentation, and I think it's just that added protection for you. But I would also agree with that.
If you're doing it for a larger corporation, they're going to require that because they're more likely to get audited, and they're writing it off and they're reimbursing you.
Yeah.
And so for sure, in that case, you need the receipts.
Yeah.
All right, maybe 2 more questions, and then okay.
I just want to make a statement on the Leo's thing real fast. It was just that my tax advisor shared with us that if you're not keeping your receipts, nowadays you have your bank statement, but write it in a calendar that you went to Starbucks with Andrea and you guys talked about XYZ or whatever. Just have somewhere some kind of documentation that proves, yes, I spent Starbucks at XYZ.
Because you're going to go to Starbucks anyways, right? And buy that drink for $20. So who's to say that it was for business use or not? So that calendar will show. All right. So,
Pick me.
all right, we'll do that. We'll do both. Start with Maggie.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if, for like your cell phone and internet, if you're only writing off a portion of it, if you typically pay that bill, the rest of it through your personal account, should you then transfer money from your business account to your personal account to cover that, or you just write it off without ever actually?
Exactly. In as long as it's a sole proprietorship, which is what everyone is, it won't matter.
Okay. So,
yeah, just
so that doesn't have to like show somewhere in your bank account that you spent that.
Okay, I have 2 more questions. First, I do not understand the CV COGS thing. Tell me again.
Let's talk afterwards.
Okay, second, what can I write off and what can I not write off when I'm going home to Chicago? Airfare, hotel, rental car,
How long are you going to be
meals. 4 days, 3 days.
Okay. How many shows do you do?
2.
Okay.
I can't.
So let's talk more afterwards, but you probably could do most of it.
Okay.
What you can't do is go to Chicago for 10 days and do 1 show, because that's not what you're there for. There are requirements. You get a travel day, your business day, travel day, and then weekends are different. So I don't know all the details off the top of my head, but a short trip, you probably could just do the whole thing. But it depends on why else you're there. So we can talk about it.
we've had this conversation before about trips and shows and stuff like that. And Jeremy, the gauge that he gave me before was like, he just said like a travel day and a day where you can show that you did work that day, you did make money that day, and then maybe travel day, and then you worked again. And so like we went to Phoenix and I was trying to write off some things. So I was trying to schedule my shows like every couple of days, like on purpose. So that's just a thought for your trip.
So not back to back.
No, well,
You're only going 4 days. You're only going 4 days. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm not a tax expert. You know how many tax returns I did last year? Less than one. I tried to do one, didn't get all the way there, but it helps. But anyway, I know a lot more than but I'm certainly not an expert, not a CPA, so I'm happy to advise you or tell you what I think. But don't rely on everything I say.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so I was just going to say one more thing too. Always at the end of the year, and Jeremy already said this and he said it twice, but I'm going to say it a third time. At the end of the year when you're doing your taxes, that does not reflect how much money you did or did not make in Premier. But I want to tell you how to best determine how much money you really are making. And this is really important in your business, is that you're writing yourself a paycheck. So all of you, I would hope, have 2 separate accounts. That's something that all of you should have picked up on at New Jeweler Training or Jewel School or from your Premier Mom, where you have one account that you're using for your business and one account that's your personal account. You need to make sure that once a month you are writing yourself a paycheck. From the account that you use for business, you're just going to write to Kate Pourbaix from Kate Pourbaix. That's what you're doing. You're writing a check from yourself to yourself. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look at the month before and you're going to run a report. It's the same report we're going to pull up here for recognition in a minute. And it tells you what your total retail is. And then it tells you what your CV was. So if your total retail for the month was $2,000, do not write yourself a $1,000 check. You did not make $1,000, okay? But the reason why is because in that $2,000, your hostess used her half-price items. And her half-price items add to that $2,000. And so, because that was your total retail for the month. But you don't make money on her half-price items, or if you're running a special at your show, you're not making money on the jewelry that you're running a deal on, or maybe not as much money. So how you determine it is you look at your total retail minus your CV. So if you had a $2,000 retail month, your CV on that was maybe $1,350. So then you would not write yourself a $1,000 check, you'd write yourself a $650 check. Does that make sense? So, but don't get confused like, oh, they told me I'm making a 50% commission. You do make a 50% commission, but not when you sell jewelry at half price. And that half price jewelry adds into your retail. So it can look really confusing and we can start to believe that we don't really make this 50% commission. You do. Okay, so if I sell this watch, I really do make $50 if I sell it at its full price. So that's how that goes. And then always, of course, leave money in your account at the end for saving up for when you need to replace catalogs, when new jewelry comes out, when you need to buy airfare to go to rally, or different things that come up as business expenses and taxes. So you still would not write yourself a $650 check in that example. You would then think about all of those things and maybe you'd write yourself a $500 check or whatever. So that is how at the end of the year, if you really want to know how much money you made, you can look back and go, how much did I pay myself in all of the 12 months? That's how much money you really made. Okay, does that all make sense on how you can be paying yourself and tracking all that through the year? That's my little side note on the taxes. Okay, so it's not snowing anymore, which is really good. So I don't feel like we have to like, okay, let's just all go home now because before it's really dumping. It's not snowing at all. So we're going to move on and we're going to break up into groups. Let's see. I have 5 little sheets up here that have different little outfits for spring fashion right now. And so what you can do is just kind of break into groups of 4. Just kind of cluster around whoever you're already sitting by. And everyone has a different one. So you 3, you're one group here. You 3 can be another group. And how about you 5? Here with Tegan back there. And then, or actually Maggie, you go over here with Valerie and them. Valerie and Elizabeth. and Maggie, and then here you go. And so you each have a different little outfit, and I want you to identify 4 trends that you see represented in that outfit, and then look at each other's jewelry and decide what jewelry would you pair with this one in your group. Okay, ready, set, go. And you can even get up and get cookies and drinks if you want right now. So we're going to take like a couple minute intermission.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, the rock, the stripes.
Probably.
I was going to say the skinny pink hood. With a big bag. Yeah, that would look really cool.
That's what I was
I feel like on the stretch you wouldn't see that as much.
Okay, so after you identify 4 trends that you see, go ahead and make a little collection of jewelry, and you're going to come up and show everybody your picture, and then show the jewelry that you would wear. You can use jewelry off the table, yeah. You can use jewelry off the table if you want. You want to pull jewelry off the table?
You know what, we looked at, and I never remember the name, but one in the spring catalog that everybody had on this weekend. The brassy, I just cannot get that one out of my mind. Okay.
That'd be a good one to do the engravable.
Don't forget, she has to wear 4 pieces at least.
Oh, should we?
Those will all be fine. I would go with that. Except I would probably flip
But don't we have to come up with a bracelet necklace? Okay, so Durango is all of it. Times the 3, the necklace, the bracelet.
Yes, but she's wanting us to come up with pieces to show what we would.
Okay, while you're up, you can get up if you want. You can grab jewelry, grab cookies and drinks. Make sure you got a sheet from the Challenge Yourself contest or promotion as well. Make sure you got one. Did you get one?
Bracelets?
Of the Challenge Yourself?
Wide band.
The white band. Then you can try them. Probably. Skinny one.
The skinny one doesn't fit anybody. The wide band fits everybody though.
And the white band I think looks good on everybody.
Yeah.
The skinny one, I like it, but I think you need to be petite.
Yeah, no, because it doesn't fit the petite wrists at all. Christine Sutton, it's too big.
Really?
Yeah. Because it spins.
Once people do
Okay, go ahead and send up a team rep to the front. To the front. Send up a team rep.
Yep, you're good.
Aaron. Okay, we're missing 2 teams. Oh, a tray and everything. That's it.
I just wanted the whole thing.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so you can just kind of, when it's your turn, turn your picture around, talk about the jewelry real quick, and then we'll just pass them around. So it's just gonna take a quick minute. You have like 30 seconds each, between 10 and 30. Starting with Sayla.
Got it. Okay. So ours is more of a casual look. She's got on a denim jacket, the stripes, and then ankle pants with a big bag. Thanks, love. So there's so many good choices we could go with that. I would tend to actually wear gold with it, so I would wear Fiesta flipped backwards like this with it, and then the gold that I have on. But we also saw tons and tons of people wearing this exact outfit this weekend with Durango. So there's Durango with that. It's just got all those super fun colors that go really well with that. And then the wide band from the engravable collection. So this one's the brown band, which would look great, but the navy band really goes with a lot of things. It's fantastic. So the navy or the brown band with that, and then the Durango earrings. And pick a bracelet. On this tray, we have the inner strength bracelet, which is fabulous. So there you go.
Super cute. Awesome. Okay. Want to go next?
Just got help.
Awesome.
Okay,
Andrew's
so
got
this is our gal. She's rocking the that's really cute. Ripped jeans, gladiator sandals, fringy. We decided that because she has the detail in her shirt, we were going to do something more delicate as far as a necklace. So we're going with a little engravable. But we were thinking big statement earrings like seaside, and then a big statement bracelet, and of course, ring.
Awesome. Yep.
This is our girl here. She's got kind of like a boyfriend look going on with the V-neck white t-shirt. She's got denim skinny pants with some super cute open side shoe. And basically we decided all the jewelry that I have on gold.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We decided to make up our own word. This is yoga chic.
Woo! I like it.
I like it.
Sarah.
No, I was you.
Oh yeah, don't let Sarah take credit for that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take credit when credit's not due.
Okay, good.
So we decided a bestie necklace would look cute with it, and sweetie pie ring, white hot watch.
Awesome.
Okay, so this girl has the shredded jeans and just a casual tee. It's not graphic. The sandals. And then the ombre hair with and the too. So we are putting her wearing the Fiona necklace that Erin's wearing, Sabrina earrings, the must-have bracelet, wrap bracelet, ultra modern ring, and more bracelet.
Totally cute. Awesome. Good job, ladies. You want to pass them around? You can pass them around. Always good to know what's trending. So I just typed into Pinterest. I typed in Spring Fashion 2018.
Sarah. How about Sarah?
So always, if you're wondering what to be wearing to make sure you're on top of the trends, that's a good way to do it. I just typed into Pinterest Spring Fashion 2018. All right. So hey, we're gonna hear from Erin next. Erin's a designer here in our Premier family, and she's gonna share with us a little something. And she has a little something to pass around to all of you. And it's gonna require a Sharpie. But you have to share. So we'll pass this around. You can pass this around and you can pass around the other.
Perfect. I'm gonna set it right here. That's over now.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies.
Hey, Erin.
I'm Sarah. The fireplace in my face was melting.
Yeah, don't melt.
Okay. So, good evening. Thank you. Kate asked me to chat with you a little bit about the one-word concept. The new year, new goals to set, and new dreams to aspire to. While many may set New Year's resolutions, I personally set one word to live by, follow, live up to, one word that defines and shapes my year. This is not a new concept. In fact, I've seen several of you seek this for your own life or your business on Facebook.
It's meant to challenge us to lose the long list of changes we want to make in the next year, and instead narrows our plans for big life changes to a single focus. And if you Google this concept, you will see a lot of articles and classes even on ways to find beauty in choosing just one word to some of your goals. Last year, I chose to live, the word I chose to live by was intention. To be done on purpose and to be deliberate. I wanted to do all things through Christ, and I wanted to be intentional with every aspect of my life. With my marriage, my kids, my friends, my premier business, with my hostesses and guests. I wanted to be more calculated in my day-to-day, more knowing, willful, and purposeful. I made it a point to communicate the word with everyone close to me in my life so that they too knew my intention in the year was to be more present. Some friends would call to challenge me and ask me how I was intentional in my week. I had other sweet friends gift me little trinkets with the word intentional on them. It began to be who I was in 2017. I found the deeper meaning to some relationships and ultimately to myself. I couldn't just hope and wish for anything to come to me. I had to seek it. I had to be more assertive. Now, don't get me wrong. I did not perfect this method by any means. I can look back at 2017 and see exactly where I left out premeditated doing or intention in my year. However, I knew I could only increase my virtues by continuing to live with intention beyond 2017. My relationship with the Lord is young, so I don't fully understand who I am in His design, and living my year of intention really showed me so much of what I feel my calling to be. Though isn't that a catch-22 as a Christian? Our calling, what does that even mean? Seeking more intention in my 2017, I started reading books by Christian authors. I listened to more Christian music, took Bible studies, and really tried to hone in on who I was intended to be in the Lord's vision. One author speaks to me. The woman is real and raw. Her name's Jen Hatmaker. She's the best-selling author of 7, and her book, For the Love, was given to me by a family member who knew that my word for the year was intention. And she also knows I say the phrase on it daily. But this book, as she states here in the bottom, is fighting for grace in a world of impossible standards. I want to read you a little bit of one of her chapters to better understand what I'm saying. She says, "Ah, yes, the calling. This is certainly a favorite Christian concept over in these parts. Here's the trouble. Scripture barely confirms our elusive calling. The bullseye, life's purpose, individual mission, every hardworking Protestant wants to discover. I found 5 scriptures," she says, 3 of which referred to salvation rather than a job description. Romans 11:29, Peter 1:10, and Hebrews 3:1. Here are the other 2. "As a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received." Ephesians 4:1. "With this in mind, we constantly pray for you, that our God may make you worthy of His calling, and that by His power He may bring to fruition your every desire for goodness and your every deed prompted by faith." 2 Thessalonians 1:11. Contextually, God's calling here is broad, mainly referring to that great glorious mystery where God makes us family. The call is the invitation, the worthy life and desire for goodness, and every deed prompted by faith are the fully unspecified results. This framework holds true for any believer anywhere. Worthy lives bloom under the nourishment of grace in every context, every country. Goodness, desired and implemented, is demonstrated by Christians wherever they be set free. Good reader, I don't mean to vilify your search for a calling, because I share the desire for purpose. Rather, I want to loosen some of its manufactured chains. I see women pressing pause on their lives while waiting to decode their callings. When my kids are bigger, then when my platform is larger, then when I'm better at what I do, then when I get a lightning bolt from heaven, then In many ways, the perception of calling is a luxury of the privileged. A life's purpose need not be authenticized by a business plan, a 501c3, a website, a salary, or an audience. We get to labor over our calling because we are educated and financially stable. So many of us eschew the honor of ordinary work and instead fret over the perception of wasting our lives. A worthy life involves loving as loved folks do, sharing the ridiculous mercy God spoiled us with first. That means restoring people in ordinary conversations and regular encounters. A worthy life means showing up when showing up is the only thing to do. Goodness bears itself out in millions of ordinary ways across the globe. For the rich and poor, the famous and unknown, in enormous measures and tiny holy moments. It may involve a career, and it may not. It may include traditional components, and it may not. To the mama at home with a bunch of littles, you can live a life worthy right now. Your calling is today. God makes you worthy as you desire goodness for your children, meeting needs and nourishing little souls. No future calling is any more important than your current situation. Every good, meaningful possibility is yours today. You have access to the kingdom now. The love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That is every Christian's calling. And the gospel is perfectly demonstrated through the daily labor of parenting. Maybe we can exit the self-imposed pressure cooker of calling and instead just consider our gifts. The former feels like a job description, but the latter is just how God wired us. Certainly we are gifted for specific faith work, but gifts can be ordinary stuff in the middle of your real life. Your prayer gift, you can use it on random Thursdays, on the phone, with a friend, in the quiet of early morning hours. Your gift of teaching, it may look like a class or career, but it could very well be over lunch, through an email, or in your own home. Your special capacity for encouragement, sister, that gift is needed everywhere, every day for every person. This is your calling. You don't need to wait another day to figure out your calling. You're living it. Your gifts have a place right now, in the job you have, in your stage of life, with the people who surround you. Calling is virtually never big or famous work. That is rarely the way the kingdom comes. It shows up quiet, subversively, almost invisibly. It is unplanned, just the stuff of life in which a precious human steps in, the good news personified. We are called to this work, and it might not seem like much, but if you play your one note, and I play mine, and she plays hers, together it will create a beautiful song that sounds like freedom for the captives and good news to the poor. May the brokenhearted be healed, and ashes turn to beauty in our generation. God, make us worthy of your calling. She continues to say, maybe you need to invest in your gifts. Take a class, go to a conference, sign up for a seminar, start that small business, put that website up, build in some space, say yes to that thing. Work with a mentor. Stop minimizing what you are good at and throw yourself into it. No apologies. Do you know who will do this for you? No one. You are it. Don't bury that talent, because the only thing fear yields is one dormant gift in a shallow grave. How many trot out that tired cliche? I'm waiting for God to open a door. And he is all, I love you, but get going, pumpkin. Because usually chasing the dream in your heart looks surprisingly like work. Don't just stand there, bust a move. She says God often sounds like young MC. You are good at something for a reason. God designed you this way on purpose. It isn't fake or a fluke or small. These are the mind and heart and hands and voice you've been given. So use them. Taking what this author has to say about using our gifts, I spent a great deal of time trying to find my word for 2018. I just returned to a career outside of the home after having been home for the last few years with a son born medically complex. And while I've struggled to find the free time I used to have beforehand to read my Bible, have play dates, or even just a few minutes to call a friend, I found a piece of me again that I didn't even know had fizzled out. I have a lot of drive and ambition, and I wanted to expand myself beyond doctor's appointments and therapy sessions. I needed to find my inspiration again. That is my word for 2018. It's defined as the purpose of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. I will undoubtedly have to find creativity I will undoubtedly have to find inspiration in my work away from home some days. I'll have to find inspiration some days to work my premier business creatively and as intentionally as ever, now that I have less time on my hands to do it. Though I'm feeling inspired by each one of you in this room. Others of you are full-time working ladies, full-time stay-at-home moms, foster moms, homeschool moms. You're all designed in His great image, and you all have something to offer the people that fill your life. As Andy Horner is quoted saying so many times over, God didn't take time to make a nobody. The one word concept is not something that ought to be thought up on the fly. Listening to your favorite song, driving down the road to the grocery store. Rather, that is meant for more of a thought-out, soul-searched, meaningful, and for a better lack of phrases, epic. I encourage you to take time to unplug from your stresses. Turn off your phone, go to a quiet space alone, maybe with your Bible, a notepad and a pen, and find the one word that inspires you to use your gifts, to lose the long laundry list of things to do in 2018 and focus your year with more intention, and give yourself some grace in doing so. Kate has asked me to pass out some little pictures and some pens. Don't feel like you have to come up with your word now, but I think it's probably best for all of us to have our word for 2018 posted on your bathroom mirror, in your car, inside your Bible or your favorite book, maybe on your nightstand, to help encourage you, to inspire you, and set your year of intention.
All right. I think we should do a giveaway. Should we give away one of those little bags here real quick before we just scoot on to something else? I'm going to give away 2 more of those bags while Erin passes around our cards. If you already have a word, raise your hand if you've already participated in the one word thing or if you've already thought through what a word might be for your year. That's awesome. Any of you want to share? You don't have to.
Yeah, you do.
You said you do. Donna?
Believe.
That's awesome. Love it. Believe. Yep. Awesome. Anybody else?
Accountable.
Valerie? Oh.
Accountable.
Accountable.
Going between, I have 2 words.
You can have 2. Oh, and then maybe after.
Consistency, but enjoying the journey.
Oh, I like that one.
I like that.
Mine's simplicity.
Simplicity. Oh, yeah. You told me that. Yep.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, sometimes Laura does that, right? You're like, but what was the other one you were going to give me?
No, I need a different one.
Something else, please. Okay. Okay. Yep. Anybody else? Awesome. Thanks for sharing, ladies. Thanks for laying the smack down, Leah. All right, 2 more giveaways here really quick. I have 2 tickets in my hand. Stacy. Oh, true story. True story. That is the 2 giveaways, I think. I'm not going to read the other one. I don't know what it says. I have to put it back in! Sarah says no.
So wrong.
There's more, Sarah.
There's more. I have it. It's right on top. Okay, fine. I'll give away 3. I'll give away 3, people. Okay. Stacy. Stacy. This counts as 1. And Erin. Woo! All right.
Last name, people.
I almost wrote H because I always used to
Almost
writing
isn't
it.
good enough, but in this
Well, I said show us writing.
Okay, you girls can decide who gets what. I'm gonna put them right there.
Thank you.
I'm like 6 or something like that. Okay, everybody pull out your challenge yourself worksheets. Did everybody grab one at the door? Even if you have one at home, you can take another one if you want to. So we have not gathered since regional rally. So we don't, huh? Challenge yourself tracking sheets.
Well, now I mentioned yes.
I did like
Awesome. Okay, turn it over. So this is why if you already had one at home, you can start a new one, or you can just take notes and jot these things down on the Challenge Yourself tracking sheet you have at home. So I believe everybody here was at Regional Rally, so you all know about the Challenge Yourself. Free jewelry. Raise your hand if you want to earn some free jewelry. Woo-hoo! Exactly. So, you know, the thing with goals, ladies, is you really do have to write them down, and you really do have to track your goals, and you also need to have action steps. So I want us to turn these over, and I want you to, on the back right, number 1, why? You're not going to necessarily fill in your why right now. This is kind of homework type stuff for you to do at home, but you need to know why you're even working toward the Challenge Yourself and why you chose the level that you chose. So my guess is most of you chose the level that you chose because it reflects your financial goals. So I'm not saying why, because I want to earn $500 in free jewelry. Hello. I mean, if that's truly your like altogether why, then you gotta write that down. But my guess is it probably has something more to do with a bill that you're claiming at home. Like I definitely need to pay my car payment with my Premier business every month, or I definitely need to be doing 4 parties a month so that I can meet more people to meet my sponsoring goals. You know, so you need to write down exactly why you have chosen the goal that you chose. And the other thing is, number 2, I want you to write down is action steps. So it's one thing to say, I'm going to do 12 parties between now and the end of June. But exactly how do you plan to do that? Okay, so some of your action steps are going to involve things like making sure you're getting every party replaced with a party. That would be one idea of an action step. Another one would be contacting X amount of people a day. I don't mean you're making booking calls every day, but one way you keep your calendar full is by contacting people, customer care calls, following up with hostesses, preparing hostesses, following up after the party with hostesses, asking for referrals, making booking calls. So how many calls do you think that might require? Or even more specifically, when in your day or your week are you going to make those calls? Or when are you going to be preparing for your shows? So kind of those action steps are going to break it down. If you have a goal over the 6 parties, that's obviously 1 a month. If you pulled one of the other sheets, one of the action steps is going to be breaking it down monthly. So if you have the 12, say one of your action steps would be by holding 2 events per month. So break it down when you get home into your action steps. Number 3 for you to write down is accountability. So this is going to mean, who are you going to share these goals with? For sure, you want to share them with your spouse. For sure, you want to make sure your spouse thinks it's a good idea, because what you don't want is to have a huge whole set of goals and then maybe he's just not quite on the same page with that, and you're not really going to be able to have success in that environment. Or maybe he's going to encourage you to do more, and he's like, hey, I've got you. Like, it's cool. I'm cool at home. Go do more. Whatever. I mean, it's a good idea to run this past to the people in your house that this is going to affect, but that might not always be accountability. So I don't know about you, but in my house, that doesn't work so well. So Jeremy doesn't really very often want to come on in and tell me that I'm not working my business very much the way he would like me to, because it just doesn't always go over very well. So, I mean, it's like when your husband tells you you need to go to the gym more, you need to stay on your diet more. I mean, there's just things there. They know better. Let's just hope they know better.
I missed that part. I was like, whose husband is that?
Exactly. Right, exactly. So this morning I just...
never said that.
No, Jeremy never did. Actually, this morning, I was just dying because, or actually, it was last night, and I was talking about how I was going to get up early and go to the gym, and Jeremy was talking me out of going to the gym. He's like, you haven't slept for days, you've been out of town, like, why are you even doing this? I'm like, are you talking me out of going to the gym? This is like completely counterproductive, I would think, but I was like, okay, I won't go. So that one worked, but it's the opposite. It's the opposite that doesn't work very well. Okay, so what you do need to do is get into accountability with maybe another jewelry lady, because then you can hear a little more easily with the jewelry lady. So I would strongly encourage you to fill in that blank. So don't just write down accountability, but actually go like, then with who? Who am I really sharing these goals with? Who's going to really sharpen me in this and check in? And it really is okay if she asks you, are you really on the phone? Are you really having parties? And the things we might not want to hear from our husbands very much. So yes.
That doesn't mean we're not on the same level as you.
Totally not. No, it doesn't. Yeah.
It ends just as long as we're like.
That's right. That's right. It does not mean that you have to go around afterwards and try to like match up who has the same, pick the same little tracking sheet as you. It just means that you believe she is actually going to be asking you, and you're going to ask her. And so it's like a mutual agreement. Good question. So the other thing is, and you don't have to write this one down because this is more in your heart and in your head, is to really be thinking through what other motivation might be required for you to make these goals. So it isn't necessarily just that you hang this up in your office, which I want you to do as well. Hang your tracking sheet up somewhere you can see it all the time. In that office, I know you're all going to go home and create one now that you know you can write it off on your taxes. So you're not working at the kitchen table anymore, I'm sure of that. So you can hang this up wherever that's going to be. But sometimes there's a little bit more motivation when the rubber meets the road. And so really even just be thinking about how else am I going to motivate myself in this. And one technique I know that is prominent in goal setting and goal achieving is visualization. So that might oftentimes require that you actually sit down and visualize, like, what will it really look like at National Rally to pick up a huge box of jewelry and know that you didn't pay for that, and to have all this awesome free jewelry? And what will it look like when you get home and you get to clearance all this jewelry on your table and not have to replace it? And so you can clearance it and put the money in your pocket because you just replaced it with jewelry you worked hard to earn. What would you do with that money? I know I had a sample sale once. It was snowing out. Jeremy hates the cold. He's so crabby. It's snowing, and he's all stinking thinking about the snow. And he could just hear all the ladies piling in the house. So he just went upstairs and bought some plane tickets while I was having my sample sale, because I didn't have to replace my jewelry with that money I made because I earned a bunch of free jewelry. So it was like, you know, maybe visualizing down the road what this can turn into besides just this. The other thing is, I think it would be a great idea to visualize what being consistent right now in your business will do for your business over the fall. So it's in the fall where you're making the big bucks when you're a jewelry lady. If you've set yourself up for that, and how you set yourself up for that is being consistent in the spring and leading up into the summer. In May and June, you're going to be booking parties for yourself in August and September, and those parties turn into your fall parties. That rolls into your October, November, December business. So everything you're doing now is setting yourself up. So visualize that even. Maybe right now you're hoping to do 1 or 2 parties a month, but you're thinking over the fall, I really want to be doing 3 or 4 parties a month. Well, they're not just going to land on your doorstep, ladies. I hate to tell you, but that's just not how that works. So you actually have to set yourself up for that by being consistent now. So those are the kinds of things I'm talking about when I'm referring to that motivation or visualization of what this is going to do for your business beyond just hanging up the tracking sheet on your wall of your office, okay? So you can take those home. And ladies, we're going to do some recognition here. And then we're going to do our last 3 giveaways. So I need the tickets, the roll of tickets. I'm going to go grab.
Okay, shouldn't you do drawings after recognition so people get more tickets?
That's what I said. We're going to do recognition, then we're going to do a drawing. Did I say
that was a great idea.
Yes. Sarah, thanks for the support, girlfriend. I love the feedback. Sarah just has to keep me on track all the time. You all already know that. You knew that. Okay, so we we are going to do recognition a little bit different this year. So we haven't actually all gathered here for training since November. So we're like, gosh, if we're going to change anything up, might as well change it up now. So what we're going to do for recognition now is we're going to compose our high five line based on all of you ladies. So I'm actually going to draw 4 names from the pail, and you're going to be the high five line. And while I do that, I want you to get out your phones because we need to pull up our CV reports, or actually our recognition reports from January. And I'm going to tell you how to do that in a minute. So get your phones out, and our high five line, if I call your name, you're coming up. But you can't just come up here like, that's not actually a high five line. Like, no, I gotta be the high five line! Okay? Are you ready? Donna! Woo! High five line, okay. That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
I just booked a party, sorry.
Oh! That's sorry. I just booked a party. That's what I was. I know. You should not be doing that right now. Donna gets an extra ticket. Leah said so. He's bossy.
Thanks, Leah.
Leah's assertive. Okay, I have a ticket. It says Sarah C.
Oh, hi.
You're the high five line.
Oh.
Woo! Andrea Hardy, our high five line. And Ren had to leave early, so our high five line is also going to be Jessie. Woo! Now the tickets are going back in. This doesn't mean they don't get to win. They just get to be our high five line. Okay,
Well, does that mean we win?
By being the high five line.
Yeah.
Totally does. That's a good point. You get a ticket for that. That's good. That's good. Okay. Yeah, you see how it goes. All right, so grab your phones and log into the portal. Yeah, you do, even if you're up in the high five line. Log into the portal, and then you're going to click on your family tree in your dashboard. All right, click on. There you go. Is everybody tracking with me? Family tree. Okay. Okay. And then you're going to go to the megaphone. This is what he was talking about. And after you're in the megaphone, you're going to go to filter. This is also how you're going to decide how much you're going to pay yourself. So this is training right now, ladies. So you're going to go to the filter. And you're going to start in January of 2017, 2018, people. And then you're going to end in January of 2018. So the report it's going to pull up is your retail and all of your numbers from January. And then you're going to hit the download button. So it's going to be the little arrow into the envelope thing or whatever, arrow into the rectangle or whatever.
What if it's not showing January?
Start month, January.
I did January 18th and January 18th.
Okay, now down it.
Oh, there.
Which
At the top.
I did
January 18th to January 18th, and then download. All.
Yep.
Okay.
I did select it.
You can do all. Well, I guess it depends if you have a downline or not. So.
Oh, gotcha.
So then, because you have a downline, it's showing, you're really only looking at under done.
You're the top one.
Yes. So then scroll down because there's all the columns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do we do so?
There you go.
That's not the
Yeah, select all.
I just went to party.
So then we'll get to.
Did you too?
I did. For your total. This is when I sent an email out or a text out on the Super Bowl. She just responded. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. She said
For when?
That's what I'm trying to work out. She says, "Oh, she don't want to do it."
Okay. And then this one. And then you should transport it into something else.
To something really.
Okay, I have something with numbers on it.
Okay.
Good, yes.
So everybody has something with numbers on it?
Yep.
Maggie, no?
No. Is it really tiny?
It's really tiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put it face it to the side and it's a little bigger.
Oh, yes, face
Face
it.
it to the sun.
Side.
I was like,
Isn't that
sure, why not?
It is delicious.
Sarah's just asked me if I wanted it in Latin. Seriously, for real.
Mine just asked me if I wanted it in Latin too.
Really?
Yeah.
No Latin. Don't choose Latin. Okay.
Yeah, what do we do?
Okay. So now you're gonna look to see your total retail. So you're gonna scroll through all the things in your total retail.
Okay.
And then
January.
total retail. Stand up to your feet if you had any retail in January. All right. Keep standing if your retail was over $400 for the month of January. And keep standing if your retail was over $600. Awesome. $800, ladies.
Whoa.
Nice. Okay. Okay. This is good, right? Okay. Keep standing if your retail was over $1,000 in January. Okay, very good. They're still standing. All right.
Work this morning. No.
$1,400. Anybody? Woo! All right. Sarah, what was your retail?
$21.87.
$21.87. Jesse?
No, I was sitting down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Donna.
1506.
$15.06. That's right. Get your extra tickets. 2 extra tickets each. Awesome. Okay. Now that you've seen all this, you can see how you can decide how to pay yourself. Because now that you're in there, you see your retail, you can also see your CV. So now you know. Okay, I would love for you to stand up on your feet if you brought someone into your jewelry business in the month of January. Did you sponsor in January? Woo! All right, you must get extra tickets for that, and you get the high five line for that. Leah, tell us who you sponsored, and then come running through the line.
Her name is Kathy?
Yeah. Yeah! Kathy, come on, ladies, come on! Good job. 2 extra tickets. Melissa, woo! Tammy sponsored Melissa. Woo! Awesome.
Heidi and Brenda.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. So I would love to know, ladies, who had something hard that they overcame in their business this month, or maybe something that you're overcoming at home, but you worked your business anyway. Anybody want to share? Leah definitely wants to share. Yes.
Right here. All my bookings in January fell off, and they were all new legs. And it was all like hard stuff that you can't say like, oh, that's okay. Like, let's do it next week. It was like a funeral and a huge health issue, and I was so overwhelmed. And then I just started making calls, and I got nowhere on my calls. And so then I printed out my why, and I put it on my desk. And as of February 3rd, I had 0 February bookings. And because of my February party and all my calls, I have 6 bookings in February.
Woo! That is a high five. That is what we call working through adversity, ladies, because I don't know about you, but I've had a month where all my parties fell off. And I would rather just crawl into my bed and cry about it and have a big old boo-hoo. So that's true. Have a big old boo-hoo and not get on the phones and not have that kind of attitude. And you guys, seriously, we was not happy about that. And she worked it out. That is because she put her why in front of her, because that girl has grit. Anybody else? You don't have to have 6 parties as a result. It's okay. You can follow with anything. Tegan.
Yeah, so I went from my first trimester being really, really rough with this pregnancy and having a party in August, and my next party was in November. But was
kind of making it. Felt like God was kind of carrying me through with Facebook parties and friends coming to me and wanting to do catalog shows, and then just kind of appearing in my lap. And then I started feeling better, but I still didn't really start working my business. And then it started to kind of tank. And so I was having trouble. I didn't really have any home shows on my calendar in January, but needed to get 9 in by the end of February, and I am on track. I have 6 down and 3 more on my calendar. So
that's awesome. Yes, come on through the line. Okay, while Tegan's coming up for her high fives and her tickets, I would love to know, can you share something that you paid for this month because of Premier? Like, how did Premier meet a financial need in your family this month? Woo! Tegan. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Valerie made money in her business, paid for herself to go on a Premier trip. Woo! That's awesome. Extra tickets. Anybody else? Something Premier paid for this month? Leah.
Premier paid for a home study for adoption.
Yay! Can you tell the story, or are you going to get choked up and I can tell it, or you can choke up and tell it?
No, it's fine.
That's what we do at training.
I busted it through the fall, but we were moving, and I was just trying to keep everybody fed and keep jewelry going to where it needed to go, and so I was not paying attention to the financial aspect at all. Like, it was just, I know that sounds crazy, but it just was, I just wasn't paying attention. So it came to pay the credit card in January, and Jason does that, and he says, "There's not money to pay the credit card." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I like worked so hard." I was shocked. And he's like, "Well, do you transfer the propay funds?" And I'm like, "No, I fed the children." It was Christmas. Like, so he went, and there was a good amount of money in the propay fund, and so we got to transfer it, and then we got to write the check the next week for our home study. So it's nice.
You can go for the high five. You can't.
Do something a little different.
Yep. I'll share. We had an unexpected bill or things and all the things. And the other day, my husband was like, "It's all the things." So he sends me an email. You know, it's all the things. You know, what are we gonna do to pay for all the things? And so I was like, "Oh no." So, but I did. I'd already paid myself my check, and that was all fine. But I was like, well, you know, there's always that hostess who owes you money, and then the other one does, and then that one girl and her credit card, and then that one comes through and whatever. So I checked the account, and even after, right? I mean, I'm on top of the financial side. You can see, ladies. So even after I paid myself and everything, I was like, I'll just take a bonus check. So I was actually going to pay myself a little bit more, even after I paid myself, to pay all the things. And so that was pretty fun because, I mean, sometimes I'm like, I can't pay all the things. So I was excited about that. So I was like, don't worry. I emailed back. Don't worry, babe. Sugar mama got it taken care of. So that was
So now you sent her an email with that. It's fine.
just one time only. That was it. Just one time. That's right. Awesome. Okay. So I would say we should do some drawings. What do you ladies think? Yes. Okay. Thanks for the high five line. High five. Woo! High five. High five. High five. Thank you. Boom. Okay. We have 3 bags left. 2 has extra tickets.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine. It's worth the wait, Donna. It's worth the wait. You could end up with one of those cute little vinyl bags.
I could. I just want this card.
Okay, so while it's stirring, make sure you ladies have next month's training on the calendar, and the month after that, and the month after that. So we're on track now to be meeting the second Monday of the month through Rally. We've got the clubhouse rented. We're good to go. There's nothing weird with holidays or anything like that. So we will be here month after month through National Rally. Well, Andrea's going to Hawaii next week.
I'm going to be on a beach.
So she can't be here.
Oh.
Whatever.
Tune into the mojito in my
Yeah, but you'll be watching. Sayla will record it for you.
It's like a 4-hour time.
Yeah, Sayla can record it for you. Don't you think, hey, who wants to volunteer to be the greeter next month?
It's my first spring break trip ever. I'm
Somebody here to be the greeter next month. Maggie's going to be the greeter next month. Maggie's going on spring break. Who wants to be the greeter next month? Donna's going to be the greeter next month. Okay, awesome.
Whoops.
Tammy Garton won it! I pulled 2, but one of these had already won, so I'm gonna dump that in. Because you can't win twice, right? No, win it twice. Okay, so the last winner of the night is Donna! There you go. All right, awesome, ladies. Thank you so much for coming. We have more drinks, cookies. Feel free to try on jewelry, look at the jewelry, hang out, head out, whatever you need to do. Thanks for coming.